And action! So, the other day, Owa tagged me on a tweet about what the city market was originally Hangar. And it was on another tweet which had a video by a guy known as Architect Russell. And he was on Koinange Street and talking about how the city market originally was a hangar and Koinange Street was an airstrip.
Now this road is a red light district. Can you guess what type of building this used to be?
Nairobi City Market building was originally built in the 1930s, but not designed as a market building.
And it wasn't a church.
Okay, I'll give you some clues. This road next to the building used to be one of Nairobi's first ever runways for planes. The area has been developed and improved a lot since.
I found this to be very odd. In my history about reading the history of Nairobi, I'd never come about anything close to that. So the question was whether this is true or not. So I started searching on Twitter on about a hangar and city market. And the tweets that go back several years where people was like, oh, actually it was built as a hangar and it was converted into a market. I was not buying it. And there was one tweet here which says, actually originally it started off as a hangar and then before construction was complete, it was turned into a market. There was no reference to anything that actually city market was an airport hangar. So I decided to put my research cap on and try and track this information. To get started with, Nairobi's very initial city plan, what you call the master plan at that time, was drawn in 1899, I believe, by Arthur F. Church, who was an assistant to Sir George Whitehouse. So Sir George Whitehouse was the chief engineer for what was called the Ugandan Railway, starting off from Mombasa all the way to Uganda. Now, he's also the one who decided that Nairobi would be the resting place for the railway or the railway depot. Now, in 1899, he took the design, it was given him by Arthur Church, and then sent it to London for approval. Now, if you look at this design, this is what it was. There was the railway quarters where the railway station is currently, and then there was a railway line which currently does not exist, which actually surpasses where Parliament, it takes a corner just around Haile Selassie roundabout and then goes all the way to Parliament, goes up to Parklands and Westlands. And you can see other sections that had already been sectioned off to be different parts of the CBD. So the first question would be, why would you fly into a CBD? This was already designed to be a city. It will be so crazy to fly over a city. So in this initial plan, there was no airdrome, any place that a plane would land. So there's nothing about design about setting up this. Now, other documentation that I read say that this was used as a temporary aerodrome stroke airstrip during World War One. Now, during World War One, planes were very rare because planes were probably 10 years old at that time, and they were not fully developed as a fighting equipment or as part of the mechanized fighting part of the army, and even the Air Force never existed at that time. Air Force was not a separate part of the army. It was thought as a logistical support or part of supporting the infantry in this case. So if I go to all records that I could find about World War One, I couldn't find anything. Now, could this have been built later on after World War One? Doesn't seem so, because the very first known landing point airstrip in Nairobi was actually in Ngong or Dagoretti area. So closer to where in Nakumatt Junction is, I don't know why you call it Nakumatt Junction, just the Junction Mall. We're stuck with Nakumatt Junction. The Junction Mall, where it is, around that area, that was the first, it was called the Ngong Landing Strip. Right? So all the smaller planes that used to come to Kenya at that time used to land there about. Now, the airport was relocated to Wilson Airport in about 1929, where Wilson Florence, who decided to start her own Florence Airways, purchased the land near Wilson Airport, and that became the airport that Nairobi was utilizing. So there was no need for flying into CBD, while 5 minutes from there, there was Wilson Airport that was there. So prior to that, you'd land at Ngong landing site, and after that, Wilson Airport was the airport getting used. So it doesn't hold any water. Another argument is that during this time, this about 1930s thereabout, a lot of the large aircrafts that used to come from Europe onto Africa were known as seaplanes, because they used to land on seas, oceans, and lakes. So they never needed a runway. These planes took a long time to take off and land. So there was no piece of land that was set up to create a very long runway. So what would happen? They used the plane, and there was an airport in Naivasha. Actually, Lake Naivasha was an airport. All the images, I think you can find one and put it here, you would get the first airport. So you would expect hangars to be in Naivasha and not in Nairobi. So the deceptive thing is about the very large dome that looks like a hangar. Well, that said, if there were lighter planes, these were very small planes, smaller even than Cessnas that we tend to have here. Why would you have a very large clearance just to hold a very small plane? Those higher clearance hangars are because you have very big planes. They need to be accommodated there. During that time, planes were very small, and the bigger ones were seaplanes or boat planes, the ones that landed in Naivasha. Another point is that there was a railway line just behind Koinange Street. It would sound so absurd to have a hangar just next to a railway line. I don't see any logistical sense of why you would have that. And typically, you want a hangar inside an airport or next to an airport, so that you land and then you store your plane. So the idea that you'd land in CBD and then store your place in that hangar or repair it doesn't hold breath, doesn't hold any water, sorry. And I kept on searching. Then I found on Flickr that someone had taken some photos about City Market and noted that actually this market used to be a hangar. No evidence, just that. Now, what was more puzzling was this document here. This is actually a UN document where it states that City Market used to be a hangar. There's no primary source. It's just rumor about it used to be there. I'm just thinking, who started this rumor? There doesn't seem to be an official document, something that they can base that upon. I think it's a deceptive shape. And I think someone came up with it maybe the 1950s or 40s, and it was one of these rumors that get confirmed over time without any evidence. Now, what totally debunks this myth is actually the City Market design looks exactly as Lawrence Hall in London, which was built in 1925. The architects who designed the Lawrence Hall are the same ones who designed City Market. City Market was built in the early 1930s, and the same designers in London are the same ones in Kenya. So could they have designed an aerodrome, a hangar in London, converted it into a market, and then did that the same in Nairobi? Highly unlikely. So I feel this myth is busted.
You're busted, buddy.
City Market was never a hangar. All right, till next time, subscribe. Any Buddha, after kuachiva always subscribe. Apa. But you just subscribe. Hey, and I have more videos here.